Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Lumiere Learning Monday. And our guest today is no other than the lovely Radhika Sood Nayak, Sufi singer, composer, one of my dear friends, and I've been her fan for a very, very long time. Of course, things were such that we couldn't have brought all of our guests to you, as you can notice, Mendi hands. So, yes, I'm a freshly minted mother in law.
Congratulations for that. It's a big, big milestone. Thank you for
Radhika,
having me here, Deepa. Thank you so much. I really am so grateful for this beautiful, this conversation that we're going to have today.
absolutely, and for someone like me who's explored Sufi for many years, and it's something that I hold such a beautiful uh, uh, faith because it's really steeped in love and something that I believe in because that's really why I think I call myself a global citizen because it's the language of love that everybody understands. And music, again, a universal language. So, when you bring all of that together with someone like Radhika, I'm going to be as much audience guys as you. And we will let Radhika sort of call the shots. And from time to time, I'll just come in to do a little time check and stuff like, silly admin things like that we have to, because I know it's a Monday morning. Those of you who've joined in live, I really thank you for your interest and your passion. And I know many of you are going to be watching this maybe later, quite likely multiple times with your families. I'm going to be asking you to share this widely and do follow Radhika's work and her YouTube channel as well.
Thank you.
So, with that, Radhika, over to you. And you've had such a fascinating journey, and I kind of had an opportunity to attend a live concert with you. So, tell us a little bit about this. You were into music growing up as a little girl.
Deepa, before I start, I must say that when you mention about your love for Sufi, I actually see you as an embodiment of that love, that ishq, that junoon, that passion is what I see in you as a person. So thank you for taking this forward because obviously you are steeped yourself and therefore the connect is very different. Okay, now going back to my journey, I was mentioning to you, I was trying to look at it from the point of view of the nine Ras. That's a framework I thought was best, leaving aside all the management frameworks. And when I look at my journey at my starting point as a child, I see the Bhayanak Ras. You know,
Acha.
yes, the beginning of my music journey was with this Bhayanak Ras. There was horror because I was so shy. I was so
Oh.
introverted. I was so petrified of the stage. And time and again, my parents, my teachers, my school, everyone would throw me on stage because I could sing. Yes, I recognized that, but I never was ready for a public appearance. And however small the public was, whether it was your living room or whether it was the school stage or wherever, it just made me terribly nervous. So this horror sort of was very, I mean, it was part of my being for a long time. But good things happened in my childhood. The good things that happened, my parents, they reached me to Jalandhar Doordarshan. I got a chance to perform on that platform, and I had a fabulous teacher who. So all the good things that happened, I remember going on stage with the Gurdas Man, who's such a
Wow.
legend in the Punjabi folk scene. So all this happened to me, but as I understand, I didn't appreciate it at that point. At that point, it seemed very burdensome. It seemed like something that I could get away from because of my inherent shyness. So, yes, that was my beginning. But I'm glad I didn't give up. I'm so grateful to my parents and to the whole system, that whole ecosystem, that I didn't give up for some reason. And now when I look back, I just look back with so much gratitude. And, also this whole thing that if you're once shy and frightful of the stage, it need not continue all your life. It's something that can change over time. That makes me wondrous. Am I the same person that I was when I was a child? So that sort of makes me really wonder कि हाँ कुछ बदल सकता है. There is something that changes gradually as you grow, and it can develop into something beautiful.
Awesome, awesome. And like we say, not now doesn't mean never. So it's just that at that that event on that day you were not ready maybe, but
Yeah.
you didn't give up, and that's important, and you
Oh, absolutely.
persisted.
Yeah.
Your parents and your gurus kept faith in you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I remember when we shifted to Delhi. So there was a lot of, in the 80s, there was a lot of strife in Punjab, and we shifted from Ludhiana to Delhi, and moving from a small town to a big city. All that. Then, of course, the next Ras which came into my life was Adbhut Ras, the wonder. We're moving into a big city. I got into SRCC. I pursued
Wow.
eco honors there, and there was a band there. It was an all girls band, and I became part of that.
What
And
was it called?
it was the SRCC band.
Acha.
We didn't. I don't think we had a name for ourselves, but we represented SRCC in the festivals. Yeah, so I remember going to BITS Pilani and to IIT, and of course the North Campus, all the colleges, and our own festival Crossroads. I discovered carpenters. I discovered Barbara Streisand in that phase. So it was really that
Oh,
wondrous adbhut जो होता है ना कि surprises and things unraveling for you, and that band feeling that you get being part of a group. I experienced that. So that was a beautiful phase. And then, of course, going to XLRI, another set of wondrous experiences. And
meeting Sada also.
yeah, of course, I was just bringing in the Shringar Ras now. Because Excel has that reputation also, and of course it did good for me. I found Sadashiv there, and this Punjabi and this Mangalorean, the coming together of these two cultures is a beautiful combination. He's a great listener to start with, so that really helped me.
All the check boxes were getting ticked, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that, yeah, in that sense, XLRI was a huge turning point for me. Going there, experiencing the whole community, the Excel community, and I'll come to it later because the Excel community has really stood by me.
Wow.
And even much later, I mean, recently when we did a fundraising, how they came together, I'll definitely mention it later. But yes, finding Sada, so that bit of the romance and all that happened, and starting my life with him. And he's been such a constant part of my journey, my music journey, including the decision to give up my job. It was
Wow.
not something that I could take up alone. It was something that needed his support emotionally. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So yes, it was beautiful to have a partner like him who understood.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And your music was also expanding in some ways, or it was getting shaped through these journeys at SRCC and then XLRI.
Well, XLRI was more informal. We had antaksharis and we had other, smaller platforms to sing the freshers' night and this the cultural nights. But I think my first realization that I want to pursue it as a career or as a vocation at least was when after I took up my first job. I mean, I joined Levers from campus. I worked for 2 years, then I moved to Grindlays. And I think the next thing that I experienced, I had a lovely time at Grindlays. I met some fabulous people, I met your sister there. I mean, we didn't know each other, but I remember meeting Amrita in that space. So, but what really came into my life was a lot of turmoil also because Grindlays and Standard Chartered were coming together.
Yeah.
And that churn also impacted me. So I was in the HR function and I was on the bench for a while. And that's when some bit of, I would say, Raudra Ras, some bit of
Yeah.
anger that it was very early in my career to experience that churn,
Yeah.
but it was very, very precious. When I look back, like I said, most things when you look back, they make sense.
Correct.
They immediately make sense. And they were meant to be.
Absolutely.
And at that point, of course, there was anger and frustration and why am I why am I being singled out? You always ask yourself, why me? And especially
Yeah.
with the lineage of XLRI and first day job and all those things that we
Yeah.
associate success with.
Of course.
Those are
Of course.
totally questioned, and you are left wondering. So yes, that phase was difficult, but I'm glad some bit of me, some bravery, some veer ras also came in, and I took the decision to pursue music full time.
And I think, Radhika, one of the reasons why, and I don't know, I'm guessing, you must have left Levers is because when you all decided to get married, I think Levers had that policy that one person can stay and one person leaves. Was that the reason? I don't know.
Well, Sada was in Asian Paints at that point, so that
Acha.
was not in conflict. But yes, so many like me wanted to move to metros. So I
Ah,
don't fault the company, because many like me were posted in, in these smaller towns. I was in Mysore, and everyone wanted to move to a larger city so that both could continue working. So somewhere that did take a toll, and I had to quit, and then I joined Grinleys in Mumbai. So yeah, but it was such a beautiful journey to make. Mysore was a beautiful city, and yeah, coming to Mumbai, it was another world for me, and Mumbai has actually opened the whole universe of music for me. So in
wow.
that sense, I'm grateful for these transitions. Yeah.
And your teachers continued through the period, or how did what is the connection in music with the guru, and how does that piece happen? I'm very curious.
Deepa, I would just say that I have been absolutely fortunate in finding my gurus. And I remember when I was about to quit Grinleys, I met my lawyer. She was also a kind of a friend. She turned out to be a friend. I was meeting her in the High Court in Mumbai. And I was telling her that I'm handing over my job to so and so and I will be leaving. And she asked me why. I just happened to mention there was no connection. We would only discuss law and legal matters. And I said, I want to pursue music. And that's the first time I even declared my intent to
Ah,
anybody. Yeah. And she said, so what are you going to do? And really, I had no answer to that. And gradually, as we conversed, she referred me to my first guru. So when I look back, what a unexpected quarter to get help from. And I have now realized that you get help from all these unexpected quarters, and people have a way of playing a role in your life. And she reached me to my first guru, Sushila ji. In She used to stay in Bandra, and I started learning with her. So that was one thing led to another, really.
wow. So go on, and life was happening on the
Yeah.
side, and Sada and you had settled down in Bombay, and
Yes.
I
And
think the
that's when,
babies.
oh, of course, yeah, the Vatsalya Ras. But before I mention the baby, yeah, okay, so twins happen,
Yes.
you are two and then you become six in your family, because there are two babies that happen, and then all the help that you need to raise them, and you're suddenly your universe is sort of exploded, right?
Yeah.
So that happened with me. And having twins is that vatsalya ras that we typically experience, that gentle tender feeling, was actually not there for a long time, because you're saddled with two children, and you have you know so that really took me over. But I think I approached Sushila ji when they were two,
Oh,
when they were 2 years old, because I approached her, and then I realized that I could not continue because the babies happened. When they were two, I approached her, and I remember Deepa that she was such a mother at heart, that she would encourage me to bring my children along. They would
wow.
sit in front of the television there in another room while I would do my lessons with her. So I think, though, that empathy which she that compassion which she displayed with me to enable me to learn, when I look back, I'm so grateful, because she was more than a teacher. She was like a mother, she was a guru, and she cared about me in a very holistic way, you know and in terms of even giving opportunities to sing on stage. And so that Vatsalya Ras, while I had children to demonstrate it to, it was also she demonstrated towards me. So I'm really grateful for that. And she gave me many an opportunity to sing. She was the one who encouraged me to pursue Akashvani. And she said, no, you must go for the audition. And that's what I cleared in due course. And whatever events, she would host an annual event, and she would host several events. I think her biggest क्या बोलेंगे seek to me was that no opportunity is big or small.
Beautiful.
Every opportunity, you have one person listening to you, that's your performance. There
So
is nothing like these millions or thousands that you will perform to, and not to a smaller group. So that's the spirit she inculcated in me. Because we are restless, we are young, we want a large following, we want applause, and we want all of that. So time and again she would remind me to not get obsessed with that.
so beautiful. And look what Brenda's telling us. Thank you, Brenda, for watching. Interesting interaction from law to music. Coincidences are only little miracles in which Providence prefers to remain anonymous. So true.
Absolutely. So true.
You
So true, Brenda.
so well put. You met your guru because you were ready.
Yeah.
Yes, very
Really.
inspired.
I believe so. I believe there is this universe which is doing things to make things happen for you. I've experienced it. So
Like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
absolutely. So she taught me so much, and I had learned in the past as a child. I had learned, but my heart was never in it. It was something that I was pushed into it. Like I said, I had a voice. So, but gradually, that you discover your own love for the craft that you're pursuing. I think that was a gradual process for me, and she played a huge role in that. And after her passing, I've now been last about 8 to 10 years. I've been learning from my Guruji Dayalji. Another beautiful experience. Another, it's these are life lessons that every session with him, every week that I sit with him, there are life lessons, there are music lessons, and there is so much to imbibe. So I've been really fortunate on that front. Yes.
So with Sushila ji and with Dayal ji, it was in the genre of Sufi, Radhika, by then, or was the exploration still continuing through Sushila ji?
Well, with Sushila ji, we did. She used to teach me a lot of devotional music, and of course the Hindustani classical rags, etc. But my tryst with Sufi was very, again, by chance, as Brenda puts it. It was again one of those chance coincidences. I got my first chance to sing for a solo show in a temple in Juhu, and
Ah,
that was in 2010. And Sushila ji, I remember she came and sat there, and we prepared the whole event. I practiced, but there was one Sufi kalam which I had heard only recently back then, and I just introduced that in my repertoire that
ah,
evening. Yeah, and after having sung it, the kind of feeling that I got, I think somewhere that only sort of kindled an curiosity to pursue this. And it was not something that I had learned from anywhere. It was something that I picked up from YouTube, and I sort of taught myself, and I sang it. But it kind of it stirred me. Something within got stirred. And then I started researching more with Bulle Shah, and I found a beautiful book in my Guruji's, in Dayalji's home. And the thing is that the poetry, Punjabi poetry, is not easily available. Now, all these things are not easily available. Some of it is available, but I don't know what it means. So, getting into that was another journey. Of course, my gurus have helped me tremendously in that. And I also thank my childhood, because I learned Punjabi, of course, very reluctantly, but that all that came back to me as my tools, as my instruments. So yeah, that exploration began post that concert, and only in 2015, that's when I got an opportunity to present Sufi Kalam in a more holistic way at the Kabir Festival.
oh, I
That
see.
was really a turning point in my life.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that sounds so beautiful.
Yes.
So 2010 to 2015, the twins were like probably 7 year olds, and they are also quite a, I think must have been a handful, and their schoolwork and going to,
Yeah.
like, not one child but two kids who are now ready to be in class 2 or whatever.
No,
So
sorry, Deepa. They were born in 2001.
one, okay,
Yes. So they were about 10.
10.
And yeah. And, when I look back, I sometimes wonder that perhaps they are the ones who kept me at home, because I was very clear I didn't want a full time job. And because I chose to be at home, I also found more time and more energy and reserve to practice music. So somewhere I find that they were instrumental in these choices that I made. And I'm grateful for that. I didn't feel that, I didn't feel that pull to go back to full-time work, and I didn't get that feeling that I was being deprived of anything. So that.
And and tell our audience about, when we all get very very busy at different points in our life, but to sort of stay committed to your craft, to keep time for your riyaz, to have that discipline of doing what's important, like the quadrant two activities that Stephen Covey talks about. How were you managing that? Was it a struggle? Did it come naturally to you? Are you always like a disciplined girl, growing up?
Deepa, that I would say that if there was any discipline required, it was at my end. My ecosystem was so supportive. I couldn't have asked for more. There have been days when I've had a concert and I've had my husband come and tell me that we will order food from outside. Today you will not cook. And there are times that I've insisted on cooking. I have insisted, and he's the one who turns around and says, "No, we will prioritize, and this is not important." So those are the things that I feel extremely grateful for, and making time, allowing me the time to be by myself. Going and listening to concerts. I remember going at odd hours. You go for an early morning concert, you leave home at 6 a.m. that day. You're not singing yourself, but you're going to listen to a morning concert or late evening concerts. And you know how Mumbai is, the commute,
Yeah.
and exams and tests and all the other responsibilities. So I've had a very supportive ecosystem. Unfortunately, my boys, both my boys, have also grown up watching that. So in some ways, it has unraveled for them in the most sahaj way, that that's how it is. That perhaps there is no other way that they have seen, that everyone is chipping in to make things happen for each other. Yeah. So I think that has been my blessing.
And you also sort of, rose up. So it was, I think everything was sort of working in, or you were making those opportunities, like
Oh,
Sushila ji said, every one of those you were taking,
yeah.
whether it was to learn music or listen to others, because that's also part of the practice,
Oh, yeah.
or sing yourself and perform yourself.
Yes, Deepa, I think that is your individual choice. I think that is something that I cannot put on anybody and say XYZ did not allow me to do it. Because honestly, there is nothing called allowing anybody. You have to allow yourself to do it. So I
So
think that was very clear in my head. I think a little bit of that MBA का जो था ना, locus of control बहुत clear था. कि वो तो मेरा, it is, if at all I mean, it's my responsibility whether
so
I
true.
want to do it or not. I cannot say XYZ did not let it happen. That
Yeah.
is something, maybe it is something that I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's my upbringing, my father's, he was always very clear that we should pursue our dreams. Going to a hostel back then, no, there was no argument that I would go out of home, etc., or even marrying the person of my choice outside of my community. All those things were always a given. We didn't have to struggle around that. So it was very, I felt very empowered, and I felt that if I have made a decision and I've quit my job, it's upon me to pursue what I intend pursuing.
Super, super. So for the audience that doesn't know, well, we've covered four rasas now. We
Yeah.
have three more rasas to
Yeah.
go, and we'll also, the whole bhava in your music was also, I think, maturing. And music, I think, also has a way of refining you. It's like, I guess it's a bit like that tapa of music is creating incense, isn't it? I mean, it's like incense burning. And
Yeah. Yeah.
round. So, how were you changing as a person through all that? Your Raudra, which you started, and which must have also come up when the uncertainty with the Grindlay stand chart was giving way, or the challenges with raising the boys, twins, was that also sort of uh,
Yeah.
coping?
I think my music, yeah, when I look back, it's just unraveled very in a very sahaj way, and people have become instruments for my learning. I think I look at it that way. For instance, in 2015, when I first approached Kabir Festival, I had by then started focusing on Bulle Shah's poetry. And when I first approached them, they had not hosted anything around Punjabi Sufi till then. So they were willing to take a bet, and we both plunged in. And 2015 up until now, every year I perform for Kabir Festival. They are the ones who, they sort of push me to explore newer poets. So Kabir Festival actually, in a way, I learned to trust a system. I learned to
Wow.
trust a community, and they built that trust. I've got so many concerts through the Kabir Festival franchise, through them, through the whole network. It's a beautiful community of people who are deeply influenced by the Bani of the mystics, of the Sant Bani. So
Yes.
that's what binds everyone together. And that was my first, when people were, people are so close to each other because of somebody called Kabir back in the 15th century,
Yes.
whom we have never met. So we talk about mission and vision and how the values bind people in a formal organization. Here is an informal structure. There are volunteers. It's entirely volunteer driven. There are no corporate sponsors. It's entirely community funded. So where is that drive coming from? Obviously, there is a belief in somebody's philosophy. A Sufi sant called Kabir who has left behind this poetry. So obviously, it stirs all of us very deep within. And then Bulle Shah's poetry came to me, and I presented that in the Kabir community. And I remember one particular kalam which I learned for that, which is really, my life's motive also, because in this Bulle Shah says, Haji lok Makke wal jande. For Hajj, people go to Makkah and they're called Haji. Haji lok Makke wal jande, mera Ranjha mera Makkah.
Oh, ho, ho, ho.
He is saying people may go to Hajj people may go to Mecca for Hajj. For me, just my Ranjha is enough for me. Main kamaliyan. Now this is the refrain. I'm crazy. Now I really think that this particular verse really, in a way, symbolizes what I also feel, that people may take any path, but this is my path. Yes, I'm crazy, and I'm okay to be crazy, right? And I really wish that I continue to be crazy enough to pursue this, right? So somewhere along, this poetry has had a deep influence on me, and I just want to hum just the
Please.
verse. Yeah. हाजी लोक मक्के वल जांदे, हाजी लोक मक्के वल जांदे, मेरा रांझा मेरा मक्का, नी मैं कमलियां, 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 नी मैं कमलियां.
Wow.
So this is something which I really identify with. And of course, the other very significant thing which happened in my life was last year I brought out my first music video, and that was the poetry of another Sufi poet, Shah Hussain, who has really influenced my journey in the last 2 or 3 years now. And the whole story behind that launch of that music video, it was called Assam, was also full of action, because we intended to launch it, and then the pandemic happened. And April 13th, the Baisakhi, last year's Baisakhi, is when we would have launched it. And then March, we had this lockdown. And how we went through this whole journey of then dedicating that song to fundraising for the thing. And Goonj, we associated with Goonj. And that's when I want to mention my Excel community.
Yes.
They came forward and we raised about 4.5 lakhs. And a significant portion of that was contributed by my Excel batchmates, my seniors, juniors, and my Excel professor. I want to mention Professor Madhukar Shukla here, because his was the first contribution, Deepa, when I opened the fundraiser page. And so Excel has had a very deep. I've had a very strong relationship with my alma mater. And so Asa happened, then Goonj, we raised these funds. And the lockdown, of course, was a big revelation for me. Huge revelation. I remember initially we were all sort of at sea, and
Yeah.
gradually things started unraveling. Such events like, these online conversations, online concerts. We did some paid concerts. We did some gift a concert series for people who wanted to gift a concert to their loved ones on their anniversary or birthdays. So we tried that format, and yeah, of course, the musical narrative that I normally do. So I got a chance to explore a lot of new poets in this lockdown. Amrita Preetham was one of them. Shiv Kumar Batalvi, Fairs. In fact, I want to mention Fairs here because uh, there is a Punjabi nazm by Fairs, which really impacted me very deeply. And then I composed it last year, and then this whole farmers the movement started, and in January of this year we dedicated that to the farmers of our country, and that's something that I really want to share here with this group, because that nazm really touched me very deeply. So he talks to the Lord, Rabba Sachya, ਤੂੰ ਤੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਸੀ ਜਾਓ ਏ ਬੰਦਿਆ ਜਗ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਾਹ ਹੈ ਤੂੰ. So the Lord told the man, his that you go and rule the world. You are the Shah of this world. And sadiyan nemata teriyan daulata ne, all the gifts of the nature are yours to enjoy. So he sent me out into this world. And then he says that ऐस लारे ते टोर कद पुछया है कि ऐस निमाणे ते बीतियां ने, कि मुझे इस लारे से आपने इस जग में भेजा. You sent me into this world with this promise. And then did you ever find out what happened to me? And then he goes on to saying that किते तौस पुलिस सरकार दी है, किते तांदली माल पटवार दी है. Somewhere the police is exploiting me, the state, the taxes, the land, the conflicts around all of that, they are bothering me. And then he says, "Eve hadda che kalpe jaan meri, jive phahi che kunj kurlandi hai." Matlab I'm tortured to my bones.
Oh.
And I'm like this bird which is trapped in a cage. I'm that bird. And then he says, चंगा शाह बनाया है रब साइया पोले खांदिया वार ना दिए. अच्छा शाह बना के भेजा है मुझे, तो all I get is beatings. And then he asked this question, मैनू शाही नहीं चाहिदी रब साइया, मैं तां इज्जत दा टुक्कड़ मंगना.
Wow.
All I ask is a life of dignity, a livelihood of dignity. मैनू तांग नहीं महला माड़ियां दी, मैं तां जीवी दी नगर मंगना. मुझे कोई तांग नहीं है, मुझे कोई longing नहीं है for the mansions and these big houses. All I want is a nukkad where I can spend my life, a corner. And then he says, "Je mang nahi pujdi hai rappa, if you can't fulfill this small need of mine, this small demand of mine, fir main jawan te rab koi hor loda.
Oh.
Let me go and find another god for myself."
Beautiful.
So Fairs, I think last few years of discovering Fairs has also been a very, it's impacted me very deeply, his poetry. So this is something that I had composed, and I perhaps I'll sing it at the end of this session. But yes, I think what has really come into my life now is Karun Ras. This whole going through this experience of the lockdown, there is this feeling, what can we do to assuage the sufferings that people are going through? Through music, yeah. That's the only tool I have at hand. So in terms of sharing newer poetry which can actually calm you, soothe you, I think that's been my pursuit.
Beautiful. I mean, that was really, really powerful, and how compassion, and all of us need to have that and somewhere link it with what it is that we can do for the world, rather than believing or waiting for someone else to do. So
Absolutely.
rather than not what can I do to what can I do. So I think it's that whole shift in perspective from helplessness to optimism, and
Sure.
plunging into one's own insides to pull out hope and
Absolutely,
positivity.
absolutely. And a couple of other good things that happened during the lockdown was this whole exploration of teaching. I had never explored teaching anybody for my own inhibitions, my own, the way I had drawn my own limitations. Right? And only so during the lockdown, after one of my concerts, like I was saying, everything has led to something. And after one of my concerts, somebody whom I had never met, she reached out to me saying, I want to learn from you. And she heard one particular piece which really stirred, and she recorded that in her voice and she sent
Oh,
it to me. And she said, this is what I heard, and I really want to learn from you. And I still held myself back, saying, can I teach? Should I teach? Etc. All those doubts, self
yeah,
doubt, all that.
yeah,
And finally, I'm so grateful that I took the plunge. And after that, it's been such a beautiful journey for my own learning too. You know,
yeah.
that this whole relationship now, I teach several people, and that takes some bit of my time, and that's been my discovery too of thing. And of course, some bit of collaborations that happened during the lockdown. There was a friend who was doing a project on lullabies.
Ah,
Yeah, so he reached out to me for a Punjabi lullaby. So I sort of put that together, and hopefully that will come out in the near future. So yeah, those little what should I say? These little joys and of this journey have also.
so do you think we should watch Asa now?
Oh yes, why don't we? Yeah, how did I miss that? Yeah, let's watch that, and then I'll end with Rabba Satya. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think let's move to Asa.
असां कित को शेख सदावणा कर बैठे आ मंगल गावणा असां टुकर मंग मंग खावणा असां हो कम कमावणा असां हो कम कमावणा.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. So this
Wow.
is really close to my heart because it was my first composition, also my first music video, and that association with Goonj. So in many ways, it was really a very special occasion. Of course, at that point, I was so distraught that all my plans of launching it in a big way came to nothing. But when I look back, I see that that's how this was destined to be. To become a medium for something else. So can I use the last 5 minutes of this conversation to sing something which I really find very stirring? Or
Yes,
is there
yes,
anything that
absolutely.
would you like, is there anything else if you have?
Yeah, I had one question that, what is it that you wish most for your boys?
I think, Deepa, the kind of poetry that I sing, somewhere it talks about one world. It talks about, you know, getting rid of all the boundaries and the barriers that divide us. It talks about conquering your ego, decimating your ego. It talks about not looking for success outside, and that is really not the true measure of success. I'm hoping that some bit of this will percolate to them. I really hope that that will percolate to them, and that they will be able to look at this world not from a colored lens. And yes, that's one thing I really hope for them. And of course, I really want them to be good listeners. That they can listen. Of course, music, listening to music, and listening to people. Is listening, and that's one skill I really wish that they inculcate.
It's beautiful. And Sada, like you said, true to his name is that, Sada Shiv. There is a serenity about him. There is a certain, therav, a composure in his personality, so befitting and so appropriate to his naming.
Of course, yeah, sure. I totally agree to that. Yeah, yeah, very much.
Beautiful. So yeah, I was curious, so I did want to explore that part. And as twins, are they similar or do they have very different personalities? Do you see a bit of you in one and maybe a bit of Sada in the other? Does that happen?
Oh, yeah, I do, and lot of my what should I say, weaknesses. Of course, I see some of them in them, and I'm so much more forgiving towards them because because I know that somewhere, I'm the channel through which it has reached them, so I'm quite tolerant of that.
So which rasa are they on right now?
Well, right now, see, the good thing about them is that they are, they are not restless, and I think that's a big quality for that age group, to not be restless. And somewhere along, perhaps it's Sadashiv's, temperament also, not to be restless about anything. And somewhere that has helped us go through this time with far more ease, you know
Beautiful.
and not go through it with anxiety or with panic or with ab kya hoga kind of a phase. And even when we look at our careers, mine is of course far more unstructured, but whatever it is, I think that whole the ability to let it unravel at its own pace, वो ये कि धीरे धीरे रे मना धीरे सब कुछ होए, माली सींचे 100 घड़ा ऋतु आए फल होए. That really guides me very often, because we are in so much hurry to achieve and to put ticks in our life. I think somewhere, even as a parent, and I think most of all as a parent, not even as a musician, but as a parent, I time and again remind myself that everything has its own time, and it only unravels then. I look at myself and I say, okay, when I'm going to be 50 this year, and the way life has unraveled, it has taken its own time, but I have no complaints. It's such a beautiful unraveling of life. So I think the same way, let it happen for everyone in that same Sahaj way.
What a lovely blessing that is. Beautiful, just
Yeah.
beautiful. So now over to you and what you want to share with our audience. Only 3 minutes left, but never
Yes,
mind.
sure. So I'll sing a small part. I'll cut some parts and see. Rabba Sachya तू ते आखिया सी जाओ ए बंदिया जग दा शाह है तू साडियां नेमतां तेरियां दौलतां ने साडा नैब ते आली जा है तू रब्बा ऐस लारे ते टोर कद पुछे आए कि ऐस निमाणे ते बीतियां ने कदी सार भी लई है रब साइयां तेरे शाह नाल जग की कीतियां ने रब्बा किते तौस पुलिस सरकार दी है किते तांदली माल पटवार दी है मैं हड्डां च कल पे जान मेरी जिमें फाही च कूंज कुरलामंदी है चंगा शाह बनाया है रब साइया पोले खांदिया वार ना आंदी है मैनू शाही नहीं चाहिदी रब मेरे मैं ते इज्जत दा टुकड़ मंगना हाँ मैनू तांग नहीं मैला माड़िया दी मैं ते जीवी दी नगर मंगना हाँ रबा मेरी मन्ने ते तेरियां मैं मन्ना तेरी सौंजे एक भी गल मोड़ा जे मंग नहीं पुजदी तै रब्बा फिर मैं जावा ते रब कोई होर लोड़ा Rabba Sachaya.
Superb, superb. I really wish I could, understand the Punjabi. Like, so when I see the subtitles and I understand the meaning, because I like to start with, I normally come from the words and the meaning from that space. So Dr. Veena Shaktivel is saying interesting stuff, interesting talk, lovely Sufi. Pratima Havaldar again saying interesting, enjoyed the approach to life, its ups and downs, which are inevitable, and one of India's leading senior most counselors.
Yes,
That's high praise. Yes,
yes.
Pratima ma'am, thank
In
you.
fact, her daughter-in-law is my guru behan, Aarti. Aarti and I learned from the same guru.
Really? So Aarti is a very dear friend of mine and my senior from SPJN.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, you're both, yeah. Right.
Beautiful,
Wow.
beautiful. I didn't know, and yes, I know Aarti is also
Yes.
deeply into music, and she has her concerts and mehfils
Oh,
also.
yes. Yes.
Radhika, what a lovely, inspiring, uplifting conversation it's been with
Thank
you. I could just go on and on. And it always happens. I mean, it always happens. You just want to, and I'm telling this to the audience, you listen to Radhika or you listen to her sing, and this purity of, her bhav always comes
Thank
through her
you.
music. And
Thank you
it's,
so much, Deepa. It's really so lovely to be in conversation with you because you really made me think.
It was
What you
so
really
nice. Yeah, and I look forward to being in touch. And yes, the lockdown is also about what we bring of ourselves, and like someone said, if we have this, instead of having a small boat that is on the rocky seas, if we can sort of really make ourselves like this big liner, and then
Yeah.
we can be sitting and sipping our champagne,
Oh, yes.
calmly when things are happening. So I think it's also about expanding the inside to
Yes.
sort of be able to handle the upheavals outside. So
Sure.
thank you,
Thank you, Deepa.
thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thanks. Thanks.
Keep on singing,
Thank
really.
you, Deepa. Thank you so much.
Bye.